Hello, this is Jean Rule. Welcome, Jean Darc Campbell, to my podcast episode of The Extraordinary Life with Jean Rule. Jean Darc and I met while we were both living in Portland, Oregon, back probably 2009, 10, 11, somewhere around there. He was working alongside my husband, Dave Rule, and Dave would come home and say, "You've got to meet this Jean Darc. He's kind of a cool guy." And you know, Dave would often come home and say, "You've got to meet this person or talk about that person." But little did I know our lives would be intertwined for many years to come, hopefully many more to come. So welcome, Jean Darc.
Yeah, thank you.
Jean Darc is the Dean for International Education and Global Initiatives at Bellevue College in the state of Washington. You've managed international education programs for over 15 years, more than 22 years experience in international affairs. You've worked exclusively helping refugees with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, the International Rescue Committee, and the Lutheran World Federation. You've been involved in diplomacy, counseling, intercultural communication and language, humanitarian assistance, and conflict management and resolution. You're a graduate of Binghamton University and hold a double major in political science and sociology. You got your master's degree there, and then you got your PhD there as well in philosophy and interpretation and culture. So you are a cool guy. Dave was right.
You know, it's always nice when you have your boss who call you cool. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, and we appreciate you being a part of our world and our family. You're like family to us. I hope we're like that to you.
Of course. I think sometime in life you never know God bring people for reason. And I believe that I met my boss in Portland. And you know, it's strange because I told him when I met him and we become close, I told him, when you are going to become a president, just call me. And I'm going to sell my house and I'll be ready to go. And for so many people, that is crazy. But I always believe, again, that's how you do to people you care about and you love. Again, if you have somebody you love, you care about, who call you, even if it's at 2 a.m., you take that phone and you try to do the best. So it was an experience that really changed me. And I appreciate, I think, the opportunity that I receive and the friendship that I received from Dr. Rule, my boss.
Well, we're gonna put you under my category of adoption, and as people hear your story, they're gonna be like, "Wait a minute here, where is the adoption part come in?" But we are not going to disappoint the listener, but we're not going to give anything away either. So we're just going to say, just hang in there and just hear us out, and you won't regret giving your time for this podcast for sure. So, Jean Darc, can you take us back to your roots? Where were you born? What was your family like? What were your childhood memories?
Born in Congo and in Democratic Republic of Congo in 1970. And I was born during a very difficult time. In 1960, Congo received independence. In 1965, the Mobutu overthrew the democratic government. So that is the time that the dictatorship started. The challenge is the fact that my father was involved as a part of the democratic movement, will be killed 7 years later. Mm-hmm. And so I found myself as a 4 years old with nothing. And during that time, the family didn't want to take care of me because they were afraid if they help me, probably the government will arrest them. So another point, I think the family of my father, they never liked my mom because my mom was a educated woman. And, she was educated in Belgium. And so for her, the notion of a wife, it was different to the traditional notion of wife. she sees my dad as an equal because they study together, they had some sense of friendship. But that friendship in a culture where it's very dominated culture, where a woman was supposed to stay in the kitchen, it was quite difficult. It's today that people reflect on that and they say, oh, we are wrong. But it took 40 something years to understand that what my mom was just trying to do is to be a wife to his friend, to be a wife to his colleague. And the relationship that you develop with somebody, it's different to just a simple marriage. And during that time, I think marriage was more arranged. But the marriage of my mom and my dad was a choice. My mom was not arranged. They didn't arrange my mom to marry my dad. It was a choice that my dad made. So it was a totally different. And so I had to face that reality. I was 4 years old. I don't remember more about that, except that I found myself in an orphanage. And you have to live life every day, not knowing what is going to happen tomorrow. Live difficult to find food, to wear shoes is a privilege. To eat meat is a privilege. You dream just for every morning. Every morning come, you thank God for that. Every evening, you thank God for keeping you alive. And that is a life I live for some time until I start playing soccer. And so I started playing soccer, and soccer was a way for me to free myself. I started playing soccer so I can leave the compound of the orphanage. And so I become very popular in my high school, my elementary school, middle school, and high school. And I start playing soccer for the popular team in my series. Yeah.
Did other kids in the orphanage get adopted? It sounds like no one ever came along like you.
It's very difficult. It's very difficult. I think, we are more than 300. And in my 13 years I spent, I think maybe 3 or 4. So we are in a province, so we are not in a capital. And so I think it's easy for people to adopt in capital because of the accessibility and also probably less bureaucracy. And in a province where I was, it was quite difficult. It was quite difficult to see, people will come there or to see even any interest. So for me, I never really the notion of being adopted. I was feeling already I was adopted because I was in an orphanage and I have so many brothers and so many sisters, but yet there is something that is missing. And something that is missing is the fact that I was very brilliant student. I was very good student. I'll be top of my class. And in French system, they have to put a list of a student who is number 1 up to the last one. They will do it publicly and they will call me. And when they call me, I'm alone. When they call other people, they have a parent. So I use just to see that there is something that is empty in my life. There is something that is missing. I was not happy, but I know that I have to find a way to survive. Mm-hmm. But again, for people who saw me, they never understood what was missing. For me, I was ready to give everything just to have somebody that I can call father and another person that I can call mother.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. When I think about it, I don't know anyone that's been adopted from the Congo. So you are a high schooler by then. You're playing soccer. What happened next?
And so what happened next? I went to university and I started playing I started becoming what we'll consider to be famous. I'm famous. I was a striker. I was playing for a major team. I played for the junior national team, and so I became popular. And so when they kill my parent, they kill everybody except me. Mm-hmm. Because the morning when my parents went to leave me in a kindergarten, and so when the house was being bombed, I was not there, and so I live in shadow of that reality. But one time I play a game, it was one of my best games, and I had a person interview, and in my country during that time, you have to praise our president for everything. Even if you get a goal, you have to say, I'm thanking President Mobutu for supporting us. And for me, that name represented my side story. So I said, I thank God for keeping me alive. And I dedicated my goal. It was a cup that we won. I dedicated to my parent. And so when they asked me, and I say this person, and I think that is a time probably that some people, learn that they thought they kill everybody, but one person was able to survive. And so when I went to the university, I decided to start working on a political newspaper. And so it was very popular for students, but dangerous for the government. Several times they tried to arrest me, but they were unable to penetrate the student complex. And one day, I think we did a mistake of my life, is that we decided to go to the radio to make a presentation publicly. And so because I was a speaker of the movement, I did it. And I said things against the government. And in Congo during that time, when I reflect about what was happening during that time, it's almost crazy. I'm asking myself how I did that. But I was young. I had a wound in my heart, and I felt my only way to my therapy was to express myself through newspaper. I would find any kind of communication to show how I feel. And I didn't do it with a hate. I did it because I felt that I have to write my story. And I didn't expect anybody to write it for me.
So you were arrested, and what was the conditions that they released you?
So I was arrested first of all. The prison in Congo is terrible. You pee same place. You poo, same place. Go. It's your place. Is a bathroom. Is everything, and they will come to clean maybe after 2 weeks. Mosquito is terrible. So it was just a very terrible place. It's a place where you start feeling that I'm going to die. I'm ready to die. And you pray every day. And there is some day that I was dreaming that I'm already dead. I'm somewhere else. It was a very terrible place to eat. It was just terrible. And so I did something really to try to survive. One day I was start feeling that I'm going to die here. And so I told the guard that I'm sick. And so they brought me to hospital. And so I see a nurse. And I told the nurse that you need to go to tell the Association for Human Rights and the International Committee for Red Cross that I'm arrested. Because many people didn't know that I was arrested. Mm-hmm. And so they told them. And that's how the Red Cross started the negotiation. So when they started negotiation, they say, we are ready to release him, but he must leave. They asked me, first I was young, I was like, I'm not leaving. But second, I felt like if I have to write my story, I need to be alive. And that's how I found myself in Rwanda.
We should say that that's your daughter in the background at your house. Yes. There. We're all sheltering in place from this COVID-19. Yeah. And so you're working from home today, and our interview is
from home,
having sound effects in the background, just to kind of like, relive your childhood. How old were you at that time where you had to flee your home country of Congo?
23 years old.
23.
It was 1993, yes.
You left the Democratic Republic of Congo, also known as the DRC. You fled to Rwanda, which is the neighboring country, correct? Can you describe what happened when you got to Rwanda?
So what happened, I found myself in Rwanda. I don't have of course, I'm a refugee. And so I have been in Rwanda in the International Committee of the Red Cross and the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees that was supporting me. They will give me, I think, $100 every month so I can be able to pay my space to live and be able to pay food. And during that time, what they were doing is to look for a third country because the Rwanda government was a friendly government to Mobutu. So while they accepted me, they didn't accept me to live there forever. They wanted to give me just a temporary so they can allow United Nations to be able to look for a third country. During that time, one day I wake up, morning time, Again, I was not a Rwandese, I was a Congolese. I found myself, I wake up, I look outside, it's like there is a silence. And when I saw far, I see car armies everywhere. So I opened the radio, I found that the president of Rwanda was killed. And now his militia is killing Tutsi, who we are they suspected Tutsi for killing him. And so I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. And I come to find that my only place I knew it was the International Committee of the Red Cross. So I decided to live there. But for me to live, I was living in a place that's called Gikondo, a small place called Gikondo. So to leave Gikondo up to Kiyovu, where the office was located, in a bus, sometimes it takes 20 to 25 minutes. But without, bus, it took hours. But it was almost more than 4 hours because there were roadblocks everywhere. They will put a roadblock, they will try to question you to see if you are Tutsi. But also if they suspect you that you are Tutsi, they'll just kill you. And I found myself in a very difficult situation because I never know it. I thought I'm just a Congolese, but some people were suspicious that I look like Tutsi. Because the difference between Tutsi and Hutu is sometimes is a nose. Hutu have a large nose, Tutsi have a long nose. And only that. And sometimes there's, people who have been killed, they suspect them for being Tutsi and they are not Tutsi. So they arrested me several times. And I told them I was not Rwandese. And so they will ask me to sing because the Congolese are very popular for music. They will say, yeah, you need to sing in Lingala, because the Lingala is a very popular language in Congo for music. And one time even they wanted to kill me and so somebody came and said, oh, we know him. He's a coach. So they will release me. So I found myself in a International Committee of the Red Cross. But we are in a tough time because there is a war now. They are killing everywhere. They are, the armies everywhere, the militias everywhere. So I was lucky enough to make it to the International Committee of the Red Cross. So during that time, they told me, they said, we are helping foreigners to leave. But again, I found myself in a very difficult situation. I can't go back to Congo because I don't have a document. I am a refugee now. And so they told me, they said, we are going to help you. We are going to move you to a hotel where our staff are staying until the war is over. Because nobody expected during that time that even the genocide is going to last for long. How the killing are going to take long. We thought it's just something that is going to happen and in short period of time is going to go. So we found ourselves that's how I went to that hotel. It's called Hotel Mille Collines. So in the movie, they call it Hotel Rwanda, but the name of the hotel is Hotel Mille Collines.
You're referring to the movie Hotel Rwanda that was released in 2005, I believe. Yes.
Yes. So that hotel called Hotel Mille Collines. And so I found myself in that hotel. They asked me, who's going to pay for you? I said, the International Committee of the Red Cross is going to pay for me. So I got a room. I stayed that day with hope that the war is just going to finish and they will go back. And I found myself there for 15 days. And so then we received a message that the militia is suspicious that they are holding some Tutsi in that hotel. And so they said, if you are not releasing Tutsi, we are going to attack. And that's how the plan for evacuation started. So they contacted so many people. And during that time, the plane is not coming and leaving. And one of the soldiers of the United Nations, who was Belgium, say they already killed, I think, almost 4 or 5 Belgian soldiers. We have to find a way to leave. But I'm going to ask for volunteers because it's a risk move. And so, I told her that I'm giving you a day to make a decision. I was like, wow, if I go, they're going to shoot us. So, we didn't know what is happening. the radio is controlled by militia in one way and the rebels in the other place. So it's difficult to get even the true information. And so during that time, I went to my room and I reflect. I said, if I stay here, they're going to kill me. If I leave, maybe God may even help us to live and to be safe. So let me go with 50-50 instead of just staying here without any kind of plan. So that's how our group. So I spent in that hotel Rwanda 15 days. And so our group left, and it was they put us in a United Nations cars. And for us to leave that place up to the airport in Rwanda, so we had to pass through body of human being, because now there is killing, there is body everywhere. We have to pass through that body until we found ourselves at the airport. So at the airport, we are there again, another kind of a challenge. And maybe that they didn't show it in the movie. Some soldier of United Nations start taking advantage of women, Rwandese women there. So it was just, you can't say anything, because if you say something, they will kill you. But there is a situation that happened that night. There is a lady who was very close to me. When we are in tough situations, start talking, she told me she's a Christian. And a soldier of United Nations came and said, I need to talk to you. And that was a strategy that we're using. If they say, I need to talk to you, they bring you to the room and they rape you. Mm-hmm. And I said, she's not leaving. And that soldier told me, but we can kill you. And I said, if you want, you can kill me. But I'm not going to let her go. I know you are trying to do, bad things to her. I will not allow it. And, again, as I said, if I reflect on that, probably it was just the angel who put me in that situation, because many things happen at the airport. And, the girl was safe, and we left together, and we moved to Nairobi. When we left with the airplane, the militia tried to shoot us. And we are very lucky, because the pilot was very good, and he was a soldier. So they tried to shoot us, but he didn't reach us. And that's how we found ourselves going to nowhere, because we didn't know where we are going. It was just to leave Rwanda. And the country that we are close to Rwanda was Tanzania. But the pilot thought that our chance is to go to Nairobi in Kenya, because there are so many international community in Kenya. And so that's how we took the plane. And we went to which they tried to shoot us. It didn't work. And we found ourselves in air. The pilot is like, I'm ready. I have people who I bring from Rwanda. You need to let me land. They said, no. We receive an order from the government. No plane from Rwanda is going to land here. And so the pilot told us we are in a tough situation.
I would imagine that one of the concerns was there might be some terrorists on board, or some that militia that would, cause trouble once landed, and that's why they did not allow you to land. In hindsight, I believe the whole Rwanda genocide took place over a course of 3 months that year, from April to July, and an estimated 800,000 to 1 million people lost their lives. Very tragic. Okay, so eventually, I would hope somebody let you land.
It took 2 hours. We are going Kenya, they are saying no. We are going Tanzania, they are saying no. So we couldn't go to Uganda, because Uganda was supporting rebels. So it was quite a difficult situation. And now the pilot said, you know what? I don't have enough oil. And we are in a tough situation. I have to force landing. But there is a possibility that they may shoot our plane. But he did it. And thank God they didn't shoot us. All we know that when we landed, we had maybe 500 soldiers who are waiting for us. Mm. And they decided to keep us outside the airport. They put a fence so they can be able to process each new camp. And so we stayed there. I stayed there for a month. So I found again myself in a very difficult situation.
Well, you seem to have gotten yourself from one situation to the next, which was Not a good setting. And here you were only maybe 22 to 24 at
Yes,
the time?
24.
Okay, so you're now in Kenya and you're there for several years. What was the setting that you were living in?
So I'm in Kenya now. I stay, I think, 3, 4 days in a hotel. And then they told me that the only place I can go in a refugee camp. So I found myself in a refugee camp, which is a border between Sudan and Kenya. So it's a desert. And the majority of people who are there, they were refugee from Sudan. I think there is an article that was being published about those refugees. They call the Lost Boys of Sudan.
Mm.
So those Lost Boys of Sudan, I know them. I know majority of them because I used to play soccer. We are, and so with them. So I live in that place. And so you are in desert and you can't leave because there is a fence. We stay one place morning to evening, story, and and you expect some food, and sometimes we'll get rice, maybe 3, 4 cups of rice for 2 weeks. It was very hot. Sometimes you are sleeping and there is a scorpion. We are living with just mats, and it was a house that we ourselves will make a house with mud,
Mhm.
and so one day I met a young woman who came and she didn't speak local languages. I didn't speak English. So we found ourselves in a very interesting situation. But yet it's strange because we found a way to communicate.
Mm.
And I always say, sometimes I think what your mouth can't say, the heart can say it. So we found our way to communicate through our heart. And we become friends. And I'll start teaching her Swahili. She will teach me English. She was a young woman from Michigan. She was, during that time, I think, 19 years old. She was going for study abroad from St. Lawrence University. So St. Lawrence University have a program in Kenya where they send students in Kenya. And so when she went to Kenya, she decided now to go to volunteer in a refugee camp. And that's how we met. So we become friends, and in short period of time, she will share stories, and I'll share my own story. And one time she told me, she said, when I meet a person like you went through a lot, but yet you don't complain. And for me, I was upset about my country, about everything going on in my city, stuff like that. And I believe that, for me, I found a friend. And for her, she found somebody who was being able to remind her that when you say you don't have a shoes, somebody else is saying I don't have a leg.
Mm.
And that really shaped our friendship. We become friends. And before to leave, the night, she decided to come to my room, my small room in a refugee camp, my house in a refugee camp.
Mm.
And so is a house. I have one bed. I have nothing else. It's a mat. I have nothing else. So we must sleeping in one place. But that night she didn't sleep. And probably she was happy that she's with a friend, but she was also afraid something can happen to me, something bad. And so I sleep, and morning time she told me, oh, you just slept, and and for her that changed because of the previous experience in her life. That experience changed the way she see people and she see men, because she didn't trust men. And so she went back to Michigan and said, I met somebody. But yet from the time we met, and she told me she's going to do everything to bring me to America. But I told her, I said, thank you very much. I've seen so many people who told me the same things, and nothing ever happened. But she was different. She was very committed to be able to change my life. And she started the process, but nobody believed her. They felt that she was young, she was naive. You just met this guy for 2 weeks who's older than you. Maybe the guy manipulated you. What happened? So people had so many questions. And but she said, I met the guy, and I believe the guy can be successful here. He's just a guy who needs a chance. And so that's how she came here. And she promised me she will do everything. And she was different because after 1 month, she will send me a check of $130. I left the refugee camp I rented a small place in Nairobi. So I live in Nairobi for a full 1 year. She's sending me that money. She was just a student. She'll cut for a check and she'll send it to me. And she told me she went to meet with a professor and say, I met this amazing guy. I need to help. The professor say, Elizabeth, I know you are you have a big heart. I know you want to do things, but that is impossible. And she said, no, I will do it. She went back home. She told the family, she said, I want to help. And everybody say, Elizabeth, nobody's going to agree with you and nobody's going to accept that. So she said, okay, if everybody say no, I have a choice to make. And my choice is that I have to bring him here and I have to bring him as my fiancé. So he will get a visa, he will come, and when he come here, we'll divorce. And then he will have a paper, and I will have my friend. And so the family become nervous. And so they discuss in family, said, okay, we know Elizabeth, when she want to do something, she will do it. So we need to avoid that she make this wrong choice of marry somebody for paper. So my sponsor, they decided to say, yes, we are going to help. And that's how the family become involved in sponsoring me to come to United States.
Wow. I like the sounds of Elizabeth. I haven't met her yet, but I hope to someday. Anyone that's been listening to my podcast from the very first episode where I interview my friend Nicole Etuck, we talk a lot about volunteering and the power of volunteering and how that really can change someone's life in a very powerful way. I tell the story where I had volunteered and met her mom in prison when she was pregnant with Nicole at the time. And so I encourage people to go back and listen to that podcast if you haven't had a chance to do that. But here's just another example where, a young person volunteering meets someone that has a connection, and it's literally changed the course of your life. I know. So at that point, it sounds like her parents got on board and helped you to come to the United States. Is that pretty much what happened next?
No, it was another struggle because I got a message. Elizabeth, she was very excited. She said, my parents are going to bring you to United States. They are going to sponsor me. And one day she arranged a call for me to speak to them. And again, during that time, at least I'm speaking English, but it's still not good. And my biggest mistake that I did, but it was not a mistake, it was a prophecy. I called Elizabeth's mother, Mom. And she told me, I'm not your mom. We are just trying to help you. But in Africa, that is a way. When you see an older woman is a mother and an older man is a father. That is how we view it. So during that time, I didn't think that, of course, they will adopt me. I thought they are helping me. But the way to show my respect is to call her mother and to call father of Elizabeth father. And she said, no, we are just trying to help you a bit, but I'm not your mom. And, so Elizabeth said, yeah, Jean Darc, don't worry. I know when you are going to come, they are going to love you. They are going just to be crazy about you. They are wonderful people. So, but Elizabeth told me too that, you are also, I have just to prepare you. You are going to face a challenge because my grandfather, is very upset about you coming. He's very upset that you are going to bring this black man in the family. Mm. And so you need to be prepared. His reaction through you may be different. I told Elizabeth, I said again, I understand. And I don't worry about that. Things are just going to be okay. So I received my document, but I had to pass an interview. So I went for an interview with a group of immigration officer who came from United States. So I passed my interview and they told me, yes, we'll just approve you and you are going to receive your visa. So I was very excited. And so I went to do medical exams. It passed well. I called everybody. I said, again, this is the end of my struggle. I'm going to United States. Just happy. And I spoke with the family. They told me we are already arranged for a ticket. I said, no, my visa is next week. So they rearranged my flight. And so I went to the embassy that morning, very excited. The family know that Jean Darc is getting the visa. And that morning, I was in a line. We are in one line, long line. And one officer came outside and said, all those who are here for an immigration visa in one line, and those who are here for student visa and a visitor, another line. So that's why they divided the line in two now. So those who are coming for immigration, which was me and a group of people, and another group that came for a student visa and a visiting visa. And so our line was small. They started with our line. And they called me. I went there. They say, this is your document. I didn't have a passport, so they have to give me a special document to travel with. They say, this is your document. Tomorrow you will go to the airport and somebody is going to wait for you at the airport to facilitate you. And in each airport in Frankfurt, you'll find somebody who will come to assist you until you reach Michigan. And so I was very excited. When I just got my paper, I was running to go to telecom. Because remember, during that time, we didn't have the email was difficult. Even if, phone, we used to have a collect call. So we'll call in 8080 in Kenya, and somebody in the family will say, I accept the charge.
This was 1998, I believe.
Yes,
the year.
1996, yeah.
Yes.
So I was running for the Office of Communication because I'm excited. I have it now. I see how tomorrow I'm going to leave. So when I'm trying to reach the telecom, that's how they call it, that Office of Telecommunication. I just hear this noise, boom. And it was really terrible. And I just look, and again, another dream is like, there are so many big buildings that are going down. The American embassy that was very close to that communication is just like 5 minutes. Everything is down. Mm. And there is all this noise. People are screaming. And that is the time I come to realize like something happened, but we didn't know is what. I decided to take my paper. I was just nervous. I don't know what will happen. I went back and to try to go back, come to find majority of the people who stay behind me, they were all killed.
I pulled the news article. I forget, I'm sorry, where it was from, but it's titled "The U.S. Embassies in East Africa Were Bombed," and it says that at 10:30 a.m. local time, a massive truck bomb explodes outside the U.S. Embassy in Nairobi, Kenya. Minutes later, another truck bomb detonated outside the U.S. Embassy in Dar es Salaam, the capital of neighboring Tanzania. The dual terrorist attacks killed 224 people, including 12 Americans, and wounded more than 4,500. The United States accused Saudi exile Osama bin Laden, a prominent international terrorist against America, of masterminding the bombings. On August 20th, Bill Clinton, president then, ordered cruise missiles launched against bin Laden's terrorist training camps in Afghanistan and against a pharmaceutical plant in the Sudan where bin Laden allegedly made or distributed chemical weapons. So that appears to be the situation that you were in.
That is a time, and now all the communications, there is no airplane coming, airplane leaving, all the communication went down. And the family in Michigan thought that I was killed because they knew that during that time I will be there receiving my visa. I informed them that I'm going to the embassy to be able to collect my visa. So my sister Elizabeth was looking for any way. She will send fax, she will contact people, nothing. And then after 3 days, the communication came out, and I remember I went to the phone. I put Quen in a phone, and they were just giving me 3 minutes. And I called, and automatically my sister Elizabeth picked the phone and said, "Hey, Elizabeth, I'm alive. Just want to tell you I'm alive. I'm okay. Everything is okay." Mm-hmm. So she told me, "Give me the phone. Give me a phone so I can call you." And the phone went up. I don't have money. Mm-hmm. They called me, and when they called me, I picked the phone. And they told me, they said, you know what? We don't care how much money the ticket is going to take the next flight. Mm. So they arrange, they make all this, arrangement. 2 days later, I found myself in an airplane, going to United States. And it was a moment where also I'm nervous, don't know what will happen with the plane. And I remember I'm praying God, I'm telling God, I said, God, just give me this chance. I just want to see at least the US so I can see a moment of peace in my life, just for, even if it's 1 year. And after that 1 year I can die, I will say at least I was able to live a moment of peace. At least one time in my life, I want to see my friend Elizabeth so I can say thank you. I want to see that family that assisted me so I can be able to express my gratitude. And I found myself in Chicago. We went through Frankfurt. Somebody come to assist me. And at the airport, and from Frankfurt up to Chicago. And I reached Chicago, and you don't know what to expect. During that time, I knew about Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. So I'm so excited. I'm going to see all this stuff. I found myself, finally, my next flight is in small town in Charlevoix, Michigan. It's a very small town.
Well, for those that have been following my podcast, there's another interview that I did with my friend Crystal Bryden. In this series of adoption, they adopted 2 kids from one from Uganda and one from Sierra Leone. And her husband works for the State Department. He's a residing physician, travels the world. And she is also from Michigan. And Dave and I lived in Michigan for 3.5 years. And so we were chuckling about just how friendly Michigan people are. We call them Michiganders. And just a shout out to Michigan people. They're just the most friendly people in the world. So, it's so fun to hear your story that you've suffered at this point so much trauma. And now you're landing in the land of Michigan. It was almost to me like the Wizard of Oz, that I was in the land of Oz. It's not really a real place because people are just too friendly. And so tell us what your life was like in Michigan.
I found myself in Michigan in a small town. I remember I went to this house, big house. They told me, this is your room, this is your bathroom, this is your small place as an office. This is your clothes for winter. This is your clothes. They bought me all this stuff, everything, from socks to underwear. They bought me everything. And I'm looking as like, I don't need all this stuff because I grew up, you have 1 pant, 2 pant. Sometimes you wash it evening and wear it morning. So again, in my mind, you are looking and say, this is just a dream. But during that time when I reached Michigan, Elizabeth went to Israel to volunteer to work for a Jewish refugee from Ethiopia, to teach them English and to help them to integrate in Israeli society. And so I was just me there with my sponsor. And again, I remember they started to show me almost like a baby from a zero, this is how life is, this is what, stuff like that. And I was very lucky to find really a wonderful family. Just to make a story short, it was a joy for me to be there. I didn't expect more. I was very happy that I have people who care about me, who love me. And that's, for me, it was already something big because I didn't have that. And then I become very close with my sponsor, whom I call father and mother today. And we'll do just all these small things. And I always say, we come to find humanity in us. Because their perspective about me changed. They saw me and I come to find that my younger brother, that I was feeling like how he's going to feel because he was alone. And now there is this new man in the house who's older than him. And my parents seem to be very, very close to me. So Elizabeth was in Israel. She will call me all the time, how things are going, because she was nervous, how things are going to happen. But my grandpa didn't. He ignored me and I try as hard as I can to call him grandpa. He said, I'm not grandpa, stuff like that. But I was like, it's okay. I was very grateful. What the family did for me was was more than I could imagine, and I could forgive my grandfather for feeling in that way. And so one day, I think it was a Christmas, all the kids came for a Christmas. And during that time in a town, I'm already, because when I come, I said the way I'm going to pay back the family is for me to volunteer. So my first job was at AmeriCorps. So I start working as AmeriCorps, and I would go to work in elementary and the middle school to coach soccer and to teach conflict resolution. And my English was poor. Even the person who gave me a job told me that, Jean Darc, I don't even know if kids are going to understand you. But I told them, I said, never underestimate sometimes the love that comes from the kid. I went just with a soccer ball. I'll start kicking soccer ball in my head, and they will come to me and say, wow, that is cool. How did you do that? And I will start sharing about my experience in soccer, and we found a connection. And I remember after some time, I became very popular in the community. Everybody knew me. Everybody wanted to invite me for dinner and stuff like that. And so the parent after 6 months, they decided to send me with their children to go to France so I can help as a chaperone. And I found that some parents, we are not happy with that. We don't know him. He just come, and we don't know what is going to happen. He's young, and you are sending him with a teenager. But that is the experience. We went there. The kid, they come back. When they come back, they said, you know what? Without Jean Darc, our trip was just terrible. He helped us, and he advised us and stuff like that. So I come to find that parents, we are very excited. So one parent during a meeting stand up and said, I have something to say. And said, I went to the police. I told the police that this guy, I'm suspicious that this guy maybe is drug dealer, because one time I found Jean Darc is working with a kid. And I was like, maybe this guy is selling drug to the kid, because we didn't know him. I was only black in my small city during that time. But yet my daughter came, and my daughter told me that he considered Jean Darc as his role model. And that really touched me a lot. And I just want to come and say sorry to Jean Darc. And said, Jean Darc, welcome to the community. I'm very sorry that I was very ignorant.
Wow.
And so during Christmas, just there, we have all these gifts. I'm not used to that. I'm not used to Christmas, all this gift. And they bought me so many gifts with all my sister there, and Elizabeth comes. So I'm just so happy. And then my dad said, I have a gift for Jean Darc. And said, I already have so many gifts. And like, I have a gift. And he opens the door, and he's a judge who come.
Wow.
And he said, Jean Darc, every time people ask me about you, they always say the African man who's living in our house. But since you came to this house, you change us. Your sister don't call me anymore. You receive all the call. Your brother is very excited about you. And so they told us that the best decision that we took is to bring you to United States and to bring you to the family. And so we decided to adopt you. So you are our son. So people will never call you the African men who live in our house, but they can be able to call you our own son. So during that time, I have mixed feelings. The first feeling, I'm very happy because it's a dream for years. Just so I have opportunity to call somebody father and mother, and to call those people I love sisters and brother. But on another note, I'm nervous. I'm saying, okay, if I'm adopted, now, the family work hard, the money, maybe they will think that I come here for money, for their stuff, I'm happy with everything they give me. They love me, they give me everything. I already have a document. So there is nothing for me, there is nothing that they are trying to do which is going to give me something else. I already feel part of the family. The judge came, and the judge said, I spoke with Mr. Campbell for years, for 2 months. I'm explaining to him, are you sure? And he said, yes, I feel it. My own mother feel it. All my kids feel it. It's something that we believe is good for the family. We want Jean Darc to be part of our family. And I told him, think about it. And he came back and said that my decision didn't change. I was 28 during that time. And my sister started crying. And my younger brother started crying. And Elizabeth started crying. And my father told Elizabeth, Elizabeth, we are glad we sent you to Kenya. We are glad to bring Jean Darc to this family. And we are very sorry for not trusting you.
Well, if you don't mind, I'm going to share Elizabeth's bio. I pulled it off some website. Hopefully it's up to date, but, big shout out to her. Just take a minute or two. She's a doctor now, Dr. Elizabeth Campbell. She is the director of the Washington, D.C. Representative Office of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees in the Near East. Prior to that, Dr. Campbell was the senior humanitarian policy advisor in the Bureau of International Organization Affairs at the Department of State, where she worked on refugee and humanitarian issues in the United Nations system. She had also served as a senior advocate for Refugees International, where she focused on humanitarian crisis in East Africa and the Middle East. Prior to that, she was director of the Refugee Council USA, an NGO consortium focused on refugee resettlement and protection. Prior to that, she worked at the UN Refugee Agency in Kenya. Dr. Campbell holds a BA from St. Lawrence University and an MA and a PhD in sociology from the University of New York at Binghamton, your alma mater. She has published several articles and book chapters on refugee and humanitarian issues and has served as an adjunct professor at Georgetown University's School of Law, James Madison University, and SUNY Binghamton. Her courses focused on humanitarian affairs, refugees, environmental studies, and inequality and social justice. I can only imagine in her classroom, she talks about you and her story of meeting you. And
she was my teacher. Yeah, she was my teacher, but she's also my teacher. So she taught me class in sociology. And that is a woman who, first of all, I think her life, our meeting shaped her life. She became involved in a refugee because of our meeting. In her doctorate degree, she wrote it, she dedicated it to me because she believed that I changed her life. I always call her my first mother. And I always tell my mother to not be jealous because she was young, but yet she gave me that love that a mother gave. She believed in me. She believed in humanity in me. And so when she was able to finish her doctorate degree, she said, I'm not leaving here until you graduate. And that's how she started working at Binghamton. She was supposed to go and find a wonderful job, but she worked as an adjunct, just trying to survive with whatever they are giving her so she can be able to be there for me.
Wow.
She refused she refused. She said, Jean Darc, I will go with you all the way. When I moved from New York to Portland, she came with me. And she will come, she will arrange the house for me, she will arrange everything, make sure I have food, I have all this stuff. So she has been really a mother. That experience in Africa changed her, and it changed me too. And I believe together we have been able to change not just the community, but also our family. Because, years later, I will get married, I will have children, and my first son name, Eli Harper Campbell. And Eli Harper Campbell, Harper is the name of my grandfather, who didn't like to say hi to me. I want to show my gratitude to you. And my way to show my gratitude to you is to make sure that you can reflect on the decision that you made to adopt a stranger, to share your heart to somebody that you didn't know. You didn't know where he grew up, but yet you give it. That motivated me to continue to be the best, because in everything I did, I represented also the love that you share with me. My grandpa received a message that the guy was selected. It was in a newspaper in all USA, academic team during that time. It was in a newspaper. In the community, they hear that guy who came here is now the top student. So it was a big news. And so my grandfather start questioning the notion of this black man coming here who maybe we are just investing in him, and he come to find out the guy can also find his way. Before he died, something happened. I visited him, and there is this restaurant where he was going to eat breakfast every morning. So there is a lady who come, and he saw me close to him, and he's like, "You must be Jean Darc." And they said, "Yes, I'm Jean Darc." It's like, "Your grandfather talk about you every morning." Finally, he was very proud grandfather.
I believe it.
And for me, I was also very proud of him and very proud of what he did for Elizabeth to pay for his education that led for Elizabeth to go to Kenya. So I decided to give my son his name. Love brought us together. Our humanity that was built just for love become what defined our relationship. And I believe he went to a wonderful place, yes.
Wow. Now, did you meet your wife, Panga, in New York?
In Belgium. She arranged to meet, and I saw her. And she was just very unique. She was very unique. And during that time, I'm a director from United States. She didn't seem to care, and she's trying to go to school in Belgium. She's from Congo. I saw her and I told her, I said, "I'm going to marry you." And she thought I was very crazy because how are you going to marry me? It's first time you meet. You don't even have my phone number. And I said, "Yeah, it's going to happen." And, and it's true, after 3 weeks, we started talking, and she told me she liked music. So I tried to impress her. I think 3 months, she was my wife. We now have 14 years.
And you have 4 kids now?
4 kids, yes.
Well, Jean Darc, you found your way to Portland in the state of Oregon, and that's where we were. That's where we met. My husband was president at the Portland Community College Rock Creek campus, and you were also working for Portland Community College, helping international students find their way to go to college there. We have had the privilege, our own personal family, of traveling with you to some of these really cool places. Dave and I had the privilege of going with a delegation to Beijing, China, as well as 5 other cities in China. It was a whirlwind tour, 12 days. That was cool. And then a couple of years later, you and my son, Sam, and my husband, Dave, were able to travel to Japan and to South Korea, which was amazing. The presidents there loved him and wanted to have him stay. They're like, "Hey, young man, why don't you stay with us? And we will have our daughters marry you." Yeah, I think is how it went. And when Dave applied for and got the job at Bellevue College as president in Bellevue College, it didn't take him long to ask you to come join him. He created a dean position for you there, allowed you to pick your own title. And that at that point, you needed to sell your house in Portland. And knowing I was a real estate agent, we figured out a way to do it. It was a little challenging. I was living in Seattle. It's about 3 hours north of that. And so I got to work calling some friends of mine that were contractors and house cleaners and such to get your house ready to list. And for some reason, it just sat on the market for a while. You know, that always makes me nervous when the market's doing well and we priced it right. It was a great house in a great neighborhood. It wasn't selling. The feedback from agents was that, well, it lacked a little bit of spit and polish, and it just wasn't quite, at that wow factor. And I'd call contractors again and have them come in, touch up paint and clean. And it still just wasn't where it needed to be. So I called you. I said, "Jean Darc, I don't do this for everybody, but I just sense I need to go myself personally and do it." And so I packed up a suitcase, headed down to Portland, literally lived in your spare bedroom, one of your kids' beds there for 3 days. And I got to work. I just cleaned everything and fixed everything, painted everything that needed painting, threw trash out, just, did a little bit of everything. And within like a couple of days, we got 2 offers and sold it. I don't do that for everyone, just so that, in case anyone ever hears this, it's like, Jean, you did it for Jean Darc. When are you going to come over and get my house ready? It won't go that way. But anyway, it was a fun time, and I'm glad it sold. And it wasn't long, maybe 2 years when you got here. You and Dave and a couple other administrators boarded a plane heading back to Congo as well as Kenya and a couple other places. The mission was to get students there to come to Bellevue College and to study abroad. Very similarly, I guess, what Elizabeth had done, come and study abroad. But here, the tables were turned and you were inviting Congolese students to come. I mean, how cathartic that must have been for you to be in that position where now you are traveling the world and bringing students here. And boy, it must bring tears to your eyes every time you think about it. Dave went in a heartbeat. I would have gone. I think I was homeschooling the kids at the time. David was doing some fencing tournaments around the country. It just wasn't possible for me to get away. But I know Dave had a great time. I was a little nervous. I think at one point you had security that were with you, bodyguards that had holsters with guns in them on their side.
I thought it was very critical for president to be able to travel. And so I went to his office. I told him, and for many people, and, when you tell them to go to Africa, they will start, really questioning things. Is this the right things to do? But Dr. Rule told me, hey, we have to put a team together. Yeah. In Nairobi, I think in Nairobi we got few students, but it's when we traveled to Congo. Congo is when we went to Congo, we started a partnership with it's called Complexe Scolaire Bellevue. And so the name of Complexe Scolaire Bellevue comes from Bellevue College. And that was almost in honor of our partnership. And the way they wanted to honor Dr. Rule was to say, you live in Bellevue, your institution name is Bellevue, we are going to give our institution Bellevue name. So we started a partnership there. And so far from that partnership, we have been able to bring more than 118 students. At this point, 25 of those students we have been able to graduate, including 11 girls who graduated in engineering program. And so some of those students today, they are doing their OPT, and OPT is optical training. And so they are almost like a full-time, they are paid like anybody else. They work as engineers, and some of them work from Microsoft, from cloud, Microsoft Cloud, Yahoo, Google, Expedia, and some other are just working for the local organization. And we have a group of people, 3 engineers, who are now working for Intel in Arizona. So it was a very successful, and again, it changed, I think, the perception of so many people. Because when people discuss, when you hear about Africa, you hear about challenges, you hear about problems, you hear about war and stuff like that. And so that trip was in eyes opening for our president and also for the delegation. And again, I was really inspired because, the president of our partner institution said to our president, President Rule, and it's like, you seem like you have been here for years. Because he just developed that easy relationship and friendship. And the time that we spent there, people we have been able to welcome us in their home. Parents organized dinner for us. And the time that we spent there, we didn't even spend a penny. Because everybody was ready to assist us. And so we started the initiative to be able to bring those students here. And those students are very successful. I was also able to start another initiative to bring 25 young students, girls and boys, under age of 18, to come to Bellevue College for summer for a leadership training. Because again, the major problem in Africa is a lack of leadership. Good leader is the continent is potential, but there is no leadership. But we have been able for the last 2 years to bring here 42 students who will come just for summer and go back, and 118 students in the last 5 years who are today, engineers. Some of them are working as in interior design. Some of them are working, for Amazon as a digital marketer. So it was just this wonderful experience. And I think the last time that President Rule was our president, I think the class of students in pre-engineering, the Congolese student, we are on top with average of 3.8.
We had several of them over to our house at different times for a party. And wow, if they are not the most colorful and beautiful and intelligent crowd that I've ever met. I don't know. We're so impressed and so blessed to be a part of helping them to be able to come and get an education in the United States.
And that it's just make a big difference. You are a president of an institution. You don't have to invite people. And I think that is when we approach things with humanity. It makes really a big difference.
Yes.
Because for some of those students, just going to a president house and they found like all this table of food and a drink and just feeling at home in a president, because in Africa, president is not, you don't visit a president house. Even here in America, I work for years for so many presidents. I think it was my first time to be in a president house. And really that humanity that Dr. Rule was able to give to those students, it really make a big difference. They wanted to work very, very hard because their parent promised Dr. Rule that our children are going to be successful. So they didn't want to let him down. So it's almost like every day they work very hard is a way to show gratitude for that door that was open to them to be here in America and to dream a dream that they never dreamed before.
Well, we were very disheartened when that job for Dave came to an abrupt end. And it's one of our greatest sadnesses that we could not continue on and do those sort of things, traipse around the world and bring students from all over the world to here to be educated and in many instances return to their countries and be able to be the next generation of leaders in their world. So I guess the clock still is ticking. That may happen yet again. We'll see. But certainly it's a fun memory.
For many of those students, and they are taking training here, they are not, they don't want to stay here. They want to get that 3 years training, optical training, and go back home. So can you imagine that in the Congo, which is rich in mineral, a place like Lubumbashi, they don't have more than 150 engineers. But yet, for maybe next 2-3 years, we can be able to offer those in the Congo engineers, and that girls and boys, and the experience of women, which really it's empowering, to see today young women who never receive opportunity in Africa, they come here and they were all top of their class. It was just an amazing experience, and they hope to finish and go back home and be able to use their experience, to empower people and to try to contribute to the development of their countries.
Well, I would imagine my next question is if we were to bury this interview in a time capsule and you were to open it up 10, 20 years from now, that you would say that you just hope that those students go back and do exactly that.
Yes. I think that is really hope. Yes.
Absolutely. Well, I hope that our federal government agrees and allows more and more international students to come and study, because I think it's part of the solution. It's not a part of the problem. Yes. What would you say to the refugee who might be a Jean Darc in the Sudan who's 19? What would you say to those refugees who feel hopelessness and abandonment and no future? What would you say to them today?
I would say I've been there. I'll tell them to continue to be very hopeful. Things change all the time. Is when you lose hope, when you feel like everything is gone. then you are in a situation to give up. And so my message to them, don't give up. Keep hoping, keep dreaming, because tomorrow is maybe different.
Thank you for that. I would imagine it's a similar answer to the question, how about the student who wants to study abroad but is having trouble with their visa, their papers, their documents and such?
It's a struggle, for many people to live in America is where you are. So it's easy. To get a visa is a problem. It's like when you apply for visas, maybe they only give one, sometimes for 100 or one for 50. So those who receive visas, they are the lucky one. And I believe that is why when they come here, their motivation is totally different, because they come with some sense of appreciation and gratitude. And yet they accept to live with less to make something happen. They may accept to live 4 people in 1 bedroom to make it happen, because America presents them opportunity to be able to do something that they couldn't do at home. And I strongly believe that when I hear somebody complaining about an immigrant or a refugee and stuff like that, I said it's just lack of humanity. Because again, if we can always think, if I was in the same situation, because I've seen here during September 11 to feel vulnerable. I've seen it during coronavirus, where people feel vulnerable. And so during that time, we depend on our humanity to survive. But yet, sometimes it's a life that people have to live every day in some country. Coronavirus is just one other disease, including sickness, cholera, malaria, so many things, anger. People have to live with that every day. So those people sometimes depend on our own humanity to be able to survive. So by offering them humanity, we are losing nothing. Because again, we are building, people to see the beauty of this country. And for me, I always say I appreciate this country is because I can be able to look where I come from and where I am. And I said I need to work as hard as I can to feel like every penny that I receive in this country, it goes with some level of gratitude for those who made it happen to me.
Well, those are the takeaways for me in our interview together, and just the impact that you've had in my life and in my family's life, the level of gratitude that you have and how it has catapulted you. It's a motivator that has taken you all the way up through your schooling to your PhD, all the way through, personal struggles. And I know it's not easy working where you're working right now. So just employer struggles. It really makes a difference when you can wake up every day and just be thankful for what you have and where you've come from, and a big time. And the next, like you said, is the exposure to diverse cultures. I think sometimes we insulate ourselves as Americans. We isolate ourselves in our homes, in our communities, and we don't really do what Elizabeth did, right? She went into a situation that was totally foreign to her, and she plucked you out. And wow, if she is not an example to us, take a very academic words such as immigration or refugee, and you make it personal. And wow, it's amazing how the love just pours out because you feel that connection. And I know I've been there. My interview with my friend Nicole Isak is right along those same lines. And so I hope our listeners can listen into that interview as well, because it's very, very similar in a lot of ways. And then how they change us. It's not that we're helping them. Oh, we're helping them. No, they help us.
I have an experience that I can share with you. When I come, I found my grandmother. And my grandmother never met maybe a black person, never been close to a black person. But when I come, we connect automatically. We become friends almost the same day. And 1 week before she died, she called me and she told me how I changed her life. She said, I'm going to leave you soon. But I was here when the Ford was building car. I was here when they used to bring us mail, using horses. I was here when we used to be young girls and they will see airplane and they will start running. And then when I was 95, I saw you and my life changed. I saw you coming to sleep in my bed at the hospital because I was sick and you were just sleeping with your grandmother. I saw you come to my house and clean and cook for me. I saw you giving me hug every morning and evening. And so she told me, I'm going to leave you soon to meet with your grandfather who died a long time. He was not lucky enough to see you. And I'm going to tell him about our African grandchild. I don't think he's going to believe me. But it's a story that I'm going to tell him how this man came from Africa and changed our family. So maybe for people, I was just a statistic. I was just a person that they have been able to help. But for my grandmother, my experience with the family was eyes open. My experience on how I come from Africa, and I become a big brother to my brother. I become a big brother to my 3 sisters who used to depend on me. Every time they have a problem at 2 a.m. at midnight, I'm the one who will receive the call. My dad will not receive that call. So yet, sometimes we see people through their difference, and we forgot the humanity that we have. We forgot that we still have the same spirit. And yet a young woman from Michigan can change a life of kid in Africa. And a kid in Africa can come to America and empower a family. So I found my family was going through challenges, young people in my family, but yet my experience changed them. And today I have a sister who is a gynecologist, who's a doctor, another one who's an architect, and my brother owns his own business. My other sister who is finishing master's degree in nursing, and my sister Elizabeth, who's today one of the most respected analysts, international analysts in State Department. But when I come, I found a family that welcomed me with their own challenges that they are facing. But through my experience, they give me a family, they give me love. And through my own experience, they found their own love. And so today, if you read their paper that they wrote, their dissertation, they all dedicated it to me. But yet I owe my life to them for saving me, for making me who I am today. So you see, when I think we celebrate who we are as a human being, our diversity, a kid in Africa is not just a somebody there, is a human being who has a potential to do better or to help if given opportunity. Somebody in America has a potential to open a heart and they change a life. So the love started from one person who changed my life. And today they call me all students from Congo. They call me Papa, which it means I'm like a father of 118 children, young people. So love starts from one person and then it's expanded and it changed the world. And I think that's the experience we have been able to live with Dr. Rod. For just saying we can try to do something. And from that love today, it make a big difference.
It's just amazing, and how relevant to our cultural conversation today. So I'm so excited to get this interview out there for our listeners to listen to, because it will resonate on so many levels. And I hope that they won't just listen to it and say, oh, that's nice, but actually do something to go beyond our comfort zones or our fear of, oh, I could never do that, or just another noise in the room,
Yes.
but actually take us up on the offer to make a difference and to see if it doesn't change our lives for the better. I guarantee it will. So,
Between us, what I was able to learn, and I always say this, Jean, when you start counting, we always start with one. We forgot zero. But we all come as a zero in this world. And by accident of a choice that God made, I found myself in Africa, somebody's in America, somebody's in Australia. So we come from different places, but yet as a human being, we have to go through challenges. Our story starts somewhere. And we live a world where many times we think that we are really different. And I always call that space between, because people says about me and you is about black and white or black and yellow. It's about them and us. But many times, if you look between 1 and 2, there are so many numbers. It's not just about 1 and 2. There is 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. So sometimes you can look at somebody who think that this person must be 3 and I'm 6. Maybe the person is not 3. Maybe the person is 3.9. And you are 4. So you are very close than you can imagine. And I think that was my experience in my family. I went to a place where I was the only black in Michigan, in Charlevoix. There were not many black people. And many people were very skeptical. They told my parents, they discouraged my parents, why bring this black man here? Why adopt a guy who is already 28? That is impossible. You can't do it. But yet they believe that I had a space in their heart. It was not about how people think, but it was a heart that was able to give. And so they give me. And when I come to Charlevoix, in short period of time, I become the most popular. Everybody wanted to invite me. They call me hero. But you know what? It started from a love, a giving heart that gave me. And from there, it benefit the community. So today, every time I travel to Charlevoix, I found that even after 20-something, people still remember me. But yet, even those who are skeptical, today they have been able to join our parents. And I was very excited to find that so many families started to adopt. They adopt in Asia, they adopt in South and Central America, but when they adopt in Africa, but when I came, I was the only African there. And I was a stranger, but a stranger will become later on a member of community. So I always say to people, if you want to speak about community development, first you need to give a homeless a home. Do not just judge the homeless. Try to be close to that homeless. Learn from him. You may find that there is a story that is hiding in that person. You may find that your humanity can connect with his humanity or her humanity. And through that humanity, you can be connected and see the world different. You may change the life of that person, and maybe the story of that person can also change the shape, the way you see the world.
What a great encouragement. Thank you. It's very relevant to our family because, as you know, we have adopted my grandnephew, and his dad, who's my nephew, was homeless on the streets of Portland for almost 4 years. And only recently did he return home to live with his mother and father in Florida and seek some counseling. He appears to be suffering from some mental illness. So you really never know what the situation is. And and talk about humanity. I mean, here we are raising his son, and you can't get any more human than that because you know what it's like to raise a 5-year-old boy. Well, Jean Darc, your adoption story is one of my favorites because it comes from the perspective of a sibling saying to mom and dad, we need to adopt this person. We need this person in our lives. Oftentimes, when you think about adoption, you have a setting where you have a mom and a dad, and they're discussing, oh, should we adopt? Should we not adopt? And for various reasons, right? Maybe they can't have children, or maybe they just feel like, hey, we have room, we have love in our hearts. Let's extend it beyond our own biological children. But when you have a sibling, right, you have the perspective of the sibling, because oftentimes I think parents are like, oh no, is it going to upset the other children?
Mhm.
And so they are hesitant to adopt because they are afraid that somehow it is going to negatively impact their biological children. And your story is so fascinating on several levels, because not only did you have Elizabeth saying to mom and dad, no, we have the heart and the wherewithal to invite Jean Darc into our lives. From a sibling perspective, that is so amazing. And then, like you said, to be able to then, through gratitude, change their lives for the better. It really defies all of the fears and insecurities that a lot of people who either are adopting or have adopted or want to adopt in the future, it really blows that out of the water, because this is not the anomaly. This isn't, your story is not the exception to the rule. This could be the rule if we actually could act on it and not give in to our fears.
Yes, I agree. The most challenging, and that happened from my experience, is the fear of the other, is the fear of the unknown. You know, we always have a tendency to think that I have my problem, I don't want to add as a problem. And that comes from a negative perspective that we have about who we are and how we think about others. And I believe that sometime in my family had problems. Challenge, young people face different kind of challenge. But yet they feel that, yeah, we are ready again to give love. Because love is just love. You give it. And when you give it, you don't give because you expect to receive something. You give it because you wanted to give it. So they were ready to give just to save my life. They were ready to give just to change my life. And that was already an accomplishment. It was already an accomplishment, just thinking that we can try to change this guy's life. But then when you come to realize that, wow, he was not a problem. He's even a solution to some of our problems. Because it gives, especially for my sister and my younger brother, a different perspective of life. They saw somebody who's struggling, but yet he's always having a smile. Somebody who's struggling, but is always ready to help. Because I came with sense that the life that I receive, I have to pay it back every day. After 23 years, I'm still paying it. Because every time I see a picture of my parent, I think about that moment. It's still fresh in my mind. The moment that I had to come to this country with nothing, just a jeans, a t-shirt, and the hope that something is going to happen. The hope that having peace was already a greatest achievement. But yet today, my life changed. Yes, today, the life of my sister and my brother changed.
I have several in this series that are adopted from Africa. 3 teen girls. My friend Terry is going to share her story. Her and her husband Matt adopting 3 teen girls from Sierra Leone, whose parents were all died from the Ebola conflict, and then several others that have elementary school boys from Africa. And so I know once they hear your story, they'll be inspired to rise to the occasion and be similar to you. Well, this has been a rich conversation, Jean Darc. I thank you for carving out time to meet with me. I know that it will be a treasure in our household. Hopefully, other listeners will enjoy it. And I hope that you'll be able to send it to your family back in Charlevoix, Michigan, and allow them to listen to it as well, so that they can be blessed and reminisce about your journey and how you're impacting other people's lives all this way. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, you have a great day, and we'll look forward to having more of you over. I plan on posting some photos of you and your lovely family and some of the Congolese students that have been to our house and other places. I think I have some photos of Dave's trip with you to Congo. and I will have them available for people to view on my website, theextraordinarylifewithjeanrule.com. Thank you for being on my program.
Thank you. I love you. I love you too. And as I always say, always grateful for the friendship, and also for opportunity to be able to serve. I always believe it takes a heart, and in one moment of my life, you and your family and your husband, you are that heart that I needed. And I believe you can always look of what you planted in us. The plant that you planted in us is that, we now there are so many fruit that are product of that. And I just continue to encourage you, no matter what happened in life, you need to remember that, again, you have been able to change so many lives. And sometimes we don't quantify that. But for what I receive, I believe you made so many millions of dollars that you have been able to help people. All those young people today who are working and making money, are studying and become successful. It always started from a heart that was being given. And so I'm very grateful. My family is always grateful. And every time we look around our house, we look at our job, we get our paycheck, we always remember that somebody did it for us. Thank you.
Cool.